History is often written by people that have never experienced it and never lived through it, because people that are actually doing the real thing don't have time to write the history down. That's part of the reason why I actually do so many of these kind of non-edited versions of me, and just so you could get the real life of what it means to build something that's incredibly difficult to do, and to see what real life is for somebody that's trying to innovate in a very difficult market to innovate actually in. So my favorite textbook that I just read, I think is really quite good at that. It's written by Henry Mitzberg, which is one of the greats in our field, and also a friend of mine, Joe Lapel. And I apologize for the third author because I'm just not familiar with who they are. But basically, if you start looking at it, it really decompresses all of these sort of perspectives that we have about often heroic leadership, in that we often think of them as like, those processors of information. We often think of them as sort of planners. But in reality, the people that are actually doing things, they don't have time for many of these moments. It's often very difficult to get up and to do things it's often very difficult to actually plan out what is going to happen, much less in the next year versus 10 years from now. And I think when you start looking at much of the business world, they often abide by planning things out, making things sure that things are all really orderly. But in reality, the people that are actually doing things, they're often just getting up and doing it and going through all of the motions of what it means to actually do it. So many people might actually watch this and think that, oh, this is really strange that he's taking videos of himself and doing all of these kind of self chats and all that kind of stuff, selfie chats. But I beg you to ask yourself, if you had no resources, if you didn't know anybody, you weren't politically connected, you had, gobs of money, all of those things, what would you do to actually build a platform that would change your industry? How would you go about actually doing that? And the truth is, you would do the exact same thing. You would scrape and claw and try to figure out how to actually connect to people. You would try to do your best in terms of working on it, writing it, and you would just do that repeatedly. And much of it is actually, to me, it's embarrassment, because what I'm doing and I have to do is do something that is completely not the norm and is highly, highly frowned upon within my industry. To do anything that is very forward facing, this is the most peculiar thing and people don't understand it. But researchers, particularly in business schools, are highly discounted if you actually try to connect with a broader audience other than with researcher folks. And what you realize is the researcher folks, they often have never experienced it. They've written this history and they sort of imagine what the history is. And the stories that are told are just often plain wrong or very, very different from what the actual experience actually is. That's part of the reason why I'm actually doing this, is so people can see what it means to build something. And so you can figure out how to do it yourself, regardless of what people are going to tell you to do. And there's such strong opinions within my field of how to actually build something. And it often revolves like this. You try to get a team together, you try to be an advisor or an analyst, and then you try to get a bunch of money together. Well, first of all, where do you get that money? Where does that exist? Who is going to believe in you? And how do you get this team together that magically appears? What you're going to realize is all of those moments are deeply flawed. They don't exist unless you come from mommy or daddy that is very, very well connected, and they have a large sum of money that they can waste, or they have friends where they can waste a whole bunch of money on you. And what you realize is that this is extraordinarily wasteful in many different ways, which I'm okay with wasting things and wasting resources to do different things. But what you realize, if you actually try to go do it, you will be dumbfounded, you won't know what to do, and you'll feel silly every day, and you'll feel embarrassed every day because everybody is looking at you thinking they know how to do it, but they've never done it themselves. So what I would suggest, so that's just going to be a really funny clip in this video if anybody's watching it. I had to pick up my dog's poop. Because I am trying to live my life and build this thing, and I have a healthy life with 2 wonderful dogs. Apologize, this is very real. But my advice to you is to get up and just try. Ignore what people think about you and keep moving forward. And what you realize is all of the advice, everything that people is telling you is often wrong. It's often based on limited experience of one for them. And that limited experience often doesn't apply to you because you're not in the position that they are often in. And almost all of the funders that you're ever going to see, in my field, the funders are going to be scientific funders and all that kind of stuff. They have their biases too. And venture capitalists and all that kind of stuff have their biases too. And so what do? You get out, you try, you ask for as much advice and thoughts and comments as possible, but you filter dramatically through that stuff and you try to find the one nugget that actually moves the needle. And then you do that every day, and you keep trying and you keep moving the needle, and then you figure it out as you go, not worrying about all of the planning and all of that stuff that people want you to do. And it's because they don't know either. And I wish they did. My life would be a lot easier. It certainly would, because I would just follow that very simple map of what it means to do something. I encourage you to get out, to try, to move around, explore, plan a little bit, but keep moving forward every day. Take care and have a wonderful day.